I would like to read a letter that Ms. Dawn Anderson, a chronic pain patient, also a former nurse before she became disabled. I would like to read a letter that she wrote to her primary care physician just last year this time, September 5th of 2018. Ms. Dawn Anderson posted this to her Facebook. Dear doctor, you and I have been together side by side for many years. You have been my doctor. I have been your patient. You have cared for me during my most vulnerable times. You know my most precious secrets regarding my physical and mental capacities. I have shared openly and honestly from my heart. You have saved my life not once, not twice, but numerous times. The pain I have endured has been stressful, exhausting, depressing, and life-changing. You had tried your best to control my pain. Thank you for your referral to pain management. This has been my experience. I was promised by numerous pain management physicians that my pain would resolve and I would be walking upright. I knew it was puffing, as no doctor could make such a promise. Each time seeing a new pain management specialist, I went through numerous non-opiate medications, such as Lyrica, Elavil, Cymbalta, Neurontin, and the list goes on and on. They tried numerous alternative treatments: physical therapy, occupational therapy, acupuncture, acupressure, epidural injections, trigger point injections, caudal injections, radiofrequency, and nerve ablations. Not only did these cost lots of money, but it took lots of time and energy. Most did not work, and some gave relief that was short-lived. Many of the doctors I have seen tried opiate medications. I was on high-dose methadone when you referred me to pain specialists. The methadone made me so drowsy. It allowed me to sleep, but it did not relieve the pain. I was forced from pain doctor to pain doctor. When one could not fulfill the promise of relieving the pain and having me walking upright, I was discharged from the service with a letter saying my condition was too complex and they would no longer see me. This was from Lakeshore Bone and Joint in Indiana. Or I would get the famous, "I don't know what else to do for you." This came from AP&C Pain Center. Many of the opiates I was prescribed did not relieve the stabbing, intractable pain I was experiencing. One pain center refused to see me because I was discharged from one service and scheduled the appointment 28 days later. I was accused of drug seeking. I was in no way seeking drugs. I was seeking relief from the pain that kept me thinking I would be better off dead. After the second amputation and surviving septic shock, I had no hope. Now, Miss Anderson had already had one of her legs amputated. So after the second amputation and surviving septic shock, I had no hope. I was so tired of the pain, the hospitalizations, the medications, the embarrassment of crawling around like a dog, and the quality of life that I no longer had. I couldn't even wipe my own butt. But there was something about that granddaughter who was recently born that I needed to hold on to, some type of hope things would get better. Midwest Pain Management was my last hope. I explained everything I had endured as far as pain treatments, the type of pain I was having, all the locations my pain was affected. I was slowly weaned off methadone. Again, I had to go through all previous alternatives, previous medications, previous treatments. The last trigger point injection I received caused an abscess about the size of a grapefruit. I had to get the abscess drained, get placed on antibiotics, and the doctor refused to do any further injections for fear of more infections and septic shock. The only option at this point was, again, the opiate-based medications. Now understand, when you agree to go on opiate medication, you sign a pain contract, basically limiting you to one doctor prescribing opiates, one pharmacy to obtain the opiate, monthly urine drug screens, Occasional pill counts, which means the office can call you any time and you must go in with your pill bottle. Although many of the opiates cause drowsiness, they did not control my pain. After almost 2.5 years of trying different drugs at different doses, this pain doctor was able to find the right drug at the right dose that relieved my pain and not cause extreme drowsiness. I was able to start doing things I did prior to both legs being amputated. I was able to live on a daily basis without being so drowsy and unable to focus. I began to have hope as I was able to care for my family, to take care of the house, start paying the bills again, and look forward to going on vacation. This was 8 years ago. I have remained on the same drug and the same dose for those 8 years. You have seen me at my most desperate times. You have seen me when all I could do was focus on all the pain I was having. And you can attest for the last 8 years my pain has been under control and has not been a topic in our office visits until now. You and I have always spoke with honesty and sincerity. You have always called my pain doctor my drug dealer. Although I have always smirked when you say it, it hurts my heart because I feel if it wasn't for this pain doctor who never gave up trying old treatments, new treatments, questionable treatments, I would have killed myself many years ago. The quality of life I had on high-dose opiate medication relieved that excruciating stabbing pains in my back, my stumps, and my hips. Now, when she says stumps, she's talking about what part of her leg that she had left, which was not much. But she was wanting to wear prosthetic legs. So she was having, the pain had finally been relieved in my stumps and my hips and my back. I may not be walking upright, but I was walking with minimal pain. Until recently, you in your office did not even know I had a wheelchair. How do you think I was able to do that? I was able to do that because I was taking the pain medication my so-called drug dealer prescribed for me. I never once abused them, misused them, diverted them, or overdosed on them. Since the decrease and removal of the long-acting medication, my quality of life has greatly diminished. It is so painful to walk with the prosthetics. It hurts to bend, it hurts to stand. The pain has returned, and again, all I can focus on. Being in constant pain is exhausting, depressing, and taking my will to live. You may see this as being addicted to the medication. I see this as being addicted to the quality of life I had when my pain was under control. The life where I could put on my prosthetics, go shopping, go out in the yard and rake my leaves. The life where I enjoyed being around others without having constant pain to focus on. The life where I loved to plan and go on cruises to the Caribbean. The life that no longer exists. I feel like there is nowhere to turn, no one to help. I know there is a life where all this pain I am experiencing can be relieved with one medication. I am desperate to get that life back. Dawn Anderson was pleading with her primary care doctor to put her back on the medication that she had been on for 8 years. But because of CDC guidelines and the changes into prescribing, her primary care doctor would not do that. He had already referred her to several pain clinics. And when the last pain clinic that she went to, she finally got relief. Unfortunately for her, when the guidelines came out, the medication was lowered down to a dose that did not work for her. The pain clinic that she was going to ended up getting caught up in some legal issues with fraud. The doctor was accused of fraud and making fraudulent charges and billing for services, and I don't even know all of the details of what he was accused of, but he was also, beyond that, he was accused of writing for high-dose opiates at high doses. Now, whether her doctor, whose name is Paul Madison, whether he's guilty of this or not, Miss Dawn Anderson and many more like her were caught up needing medical care, needing medical treatment and health care, needing her needs to be met by a physician. Miss Anderson tried to tell her primary care doctor, I know that was a high dose, but I had been on it for 8 years, and I had not experienced any overdose. I had not experienced any problems with it. I was functioning. I was enjoying my life. And I know that people like David Gerlich would probably say, well, she was just addicted. Well, Mr. Gerlich, it's like this. If that woman is able to walk around on her prosthetic limbs, on her prosthetic legs, without having to be constantly confined to a wheelchair, because whether you realize it or not, wheelchairs can help somebody be mobile, but at the same time, it can confine them too. Because if I'm in a wheelchair, I can't just walk out my door. I've got to have a ramp to get out the door. I can't go outside and do yard work if that's what I enjoy doing. I can't just get in my car and go like I want to go if I'm confined to a wheelchair. But if I can put on my prosthetic legs, then I have more freedom. And this is what Miss Anderson was saying. That gave her freedom. Being able to get her pain under control gave her the freedom to wear her prosthetic legs. So she had the freedom to feel like she was living a normal life again. The life that she had before she lost her legs. What is wrong with that? What is wrong with that? What is wrong with having the quality of her life back? What is wrong with her being able to control her pain and live a life that she's enjoying? Whatever the reason that you want to pinpoint, or whatever the label that you want to throw on this woman, or the psychological, if you want to say it's psychologically helping her, you don't know because you're not in her body. But the fact of the matter was, for whatever reason, Dawn Anderson had done well for 8 years on this medication regime and this dose that she was on, while the negative side effects or adverse reactions had not been a problem, period, at all. So, for no reason of her own, for no reason of the medication, her dose was cut. And no, actually the medication was completely removed. And she was taken off of it. Miss Anderson was a nurse. She knew what was going on. She knew all about pain medication. She knew. And she knew what kind of shape she was in. Now, all of you out there that don't understand that some people's bodies cannot be fixed, you know, there's a lot of people out there, and Andrew Kolodny promoted this, that says that people need to fix their pain, fix their problem. Well, how could Dawn Anderson fix her problem? Her legs were gone. Both of her legs had been amputated due to disease. Both of her legs. And this is something that's not uncommon in diabetics. Not at all. So Miss Anderson did not have her legs. And one of her eyes had been removed. How was she supposed to fix that? She was fixing it the best she could. She was trying to wear her prosthetic legs. But she could not grow more legs. She could not fix her body. Dawn Anderson was 53 years old, and she was having to live in the body that she was assigned with. The body that she was in is the body that she had to live with and deal with and cope with. There is no exchange. We can't go and say, give me a new body. Obviously. See, some people don't understand chronic illness. And they never will until they're in that situation. Until they're in that boat, they don't understand it. Especially younger people or people that have never been around illnesses. Now, I worked in the hospital. I've seen all kinds of illnesses. I've seen all kinds of bodies that people are trapped in. And so I understand about pain. And I live in a body that gives me pain as well. Miss Anderson was pleading and begging. Well, this was, like I said, this was September that she had wrote this to her doctor. She was advocating for people in pain. She was not just focused on herself. She had a heart that was big, and she was concerned not just for herself, but for other people as well. And I think that's what's such a lovely thing about Dawn Anderson, was that she was concerned about everybody. And I think that even if she had not been in the pain she was in, she still would have been advocating for other people. From one nurse to another, I understand. Dawn had probably seen a lot of suffering in her lifetime, working in it. And she was one of those that cared. She cared about other people. She cared about what they were going through. And she was at these rallies trying to advocate for people that were in pain. Writing to the governor, writing to the senators, trying to do what she was supposed to do. Now, I don't mean any disrespect, but our stories as pain patients hardly ever are told. The spotlight is now on addiction. And it's not us against them, because people that suffer from addiction, they have needs as well. But there are people that have got into policy making and trying to dictate pain care that are running on emotion, and they're running on emotion and not fact and logic. Okay? If you are a family member who has lost a loved one to addiction, you still cannot dictate. It's not a good practice for you to dictate pain management for everybody in this country, especially when you have no medical background. It's okay to advocate. It's okay to advocate. It's okay to try to make some changes and do what you can do. But to dictate to people in pain how they're supposed to be treated, how their health care is supposed to be treated, that is something that's supposed to be between them and their doctor. Everybody is not abusing their medicines, but that was the false information that was pumped out there by Prop and by Andrew Kolodny. Andrew Kolodny promoted that we're all selling our meds. Dawn Anderson had a life at one time, and now all of a sudden, because of illness, Dawn Anderson was living a life filled with pain. She wanted to live. She wanted to live and not be in pain. What ended up happening to Dawn was she ended up developing a she ended up developing kidney failure. And she was taken to the hospital. And when she got there, she was not even treated properly then. She was not given pain medication then. She was not. She was held down, according to her family. She was held down, and she was given Thorazine. That's not appropriate. That's not appropriate treatment for someone who's coming in pain. She had been suffering from around August to September is when she wrote this letter to her doctor. That's when she posted it on Facebook. In March, she goes into the hospital in kidney failure, and she refused. They told her, you need dialysis. She refused. She refused. And she said, I can't. I can't do it. And so her daughter got her friend on the phone. She said, talk to, for her to talk to Dawn and try to find out why. Why don't you want to take dialysis? She says, honey, I love you, but I'm just tired. I can't suffer anymore. She said, I cannot suffer anymore. She said, the pain is just too great. She had tried to get them to put her on palliative care before so she could keep getting her pain medication, and they would not do it. So the hospital sent her home. She went into the hospital on March the 4th, and on March the 10th, she was moved out of ICU. She stayed in ICU until the 10th. And they moved her out of ICU. And they sent her home. And on March the 11th, Dawn Anderson passed away. And that was the only way that she could get out of her suffering. That was the only option that Dawn Anderson had to not live in excruciating pain. In 2018, I'm sorry, she wrote this in 2018, but in 2019, when we have medical care and medical treatment, and we're supposed to have patient rights, and we're supposed to have advancements in medicine, and we've got something that was relieving her pain, something that worked for her with minimal side effects and minimal problems with her, but she couldn't have it because of policies. Because of people that were trying to dictate pain care that don't know anything about pain care. This is not fair, what happened to Dawn Anderson. It's not fair to her daughters, and it's not fair to her granddaughters. It's not fair to her, it's not fair to her husband, it's not fair to any of them. Because had they not taken her medication away from her, then she may not have given up, and she may have agreed to be dialyzed, and she may still be here. I want to read what Judy Rumler said concerning pain medicine. That's what I want to read what she said. Now, Miss Rumler is someone who started the Steve Rumler Hope Foundation because her son overdosed on heroin, and he had been prescribed opiate pain medication, and he abused it. Mr. Rumler had a disease of addiction. Excuse me while I take my dog and, oh, hold on. Go ahead. Go ahead, girl. Ms. Rumler says that she doesn't think that people need pain medication. She says that because her son was addicted, Ms. Rumler thinks that everyone that takes pain medicine will be addicted. And I feel like that's not Ms. Rumler's decision to make. That's not PROP's decision to make. Pain pill prescribing has been cut down by over 60% just in the past few years. And deaths from overdose have skyrocketed. They are more now. 2017 saw a record number of overdoses, more than we've seen, I think, in our history. With illegal fentanyl analogs, illicit fentanyl analogs have gotten into on the streets, and they're killing people. At a time right now, we have deadly fentanyl analogs on the streets. We have things on the street that were never approved for human consumption. When you hear illicit fentanyl, that is not pharmaceutical fentanyl. That is fentanyl that was never approved for human consumption. And that is what's killing people. It's in the heroin supply. It has got into the coke supply. People are mixing it in everything. People are making fake pain pills and selling them on the street. Tom Petty overdosed and died from this. Prince overdosed and died from this. Just recently, someone else did. But it is not everyone else's decision. The World Health Organization has already declared years ago that opioid pain medication is a necessity in healthcare. It is a necessity, a medical necessity. Making these blanket policies that are tying the doctors' hands to treat their patients based on emotions and not logic and fact, but pure emotion, grief and emotion. This has not been good. Not at all. And I'm sorry, but I want to find this statement that she made. I had found it and then I have lost it again. Ms. Rumler thinks that that's her call. And I just don't understand why that's her call. I don't understand it. I don't understand why. Because Ms. Rumler lost her son to... She lost her son to a heroin overdose, and he was 43 years old. He was 43 years old. And Miss Rumler is not a physician. Miss Rumler has been very adamant about going after doctors and prescribing pain medication. She has been very adamant about that. She is involved in the Fed Up Coalition. They go every year to Washington, D.C., and they protest at the White House, or they speak at the White House. Andrew Kolodny got and partnered up with Miss Rumler because Andrew Kolodny had his own agenda. Andrew Kolodny wants to sell or promote Suboxone, which the active ingredient in that is also an opioid. And Miss Rumler promotes that too. She's all for that. She's all for that. You know, I just want to say, and some people might say, well, Miss Anderson, why was she going to a doctor that prescribed heavy doses of pain medicine? Well, she was limited. I mean, she had tried. She wasn't a doctor shopper. She wasn't doctor shopping. She was looking for help. And this is what happens. See, primary care is not, they're not even allowed to treat us anymore. They won't treat pain patients anymore. Miss Rumler is promoting Suboxone. She also was fighting to get hydrocodone rescheduled and reclassed. But to tell you how much that she doesn't even understand what she's even talking about is because buprenorphine is much stronger and it has a much longer half-life than hydrocodone. And she promotes this. I mean, I want to find that statement that she made. She wants the stigma against addiction decrease, but she promotes stigma of pain patients. She discredits us. None of us need medicine. It doesn't help any of us. That's what she says. That it doesn't work for any of us. That's what she said. And if we say that it did, that we are just addicts, like her son was. I'm sorry, Miss Rumler. But Miss Anderson didn't have a choice as to who she went to because because of doctors' hands being tied. I would just like to say to people like Anna Lembick and Beth Darnell, you ladies, the next time, especially Anna has said some very cruel things about people that suffer from chronic pain. Anna, the next time that you're standing up there on your two healthy legs giving lectures about how people in pain are just addicted and how we just need to embrace our pain and just you know, enjoy it and go along with it. I want you to think about Dawn Anderson and how she would have given anything to be able just to stand up on her legs. But since she couldn't on her legs, how all she wanted to do, all Dawn Anderson wanted to do was to be able to stand on her prosthetic legs and not be in excruciating pain. All she wanted to do was enjoy her grandchildren and live as much of a normal life as she possibly could. Why is that too much for her to ask? Anna Limit, David Gerlich, why is that too much for her to ask? Why was it too much for Dawn Anderson to ask to have pain medication that would enable her to walk on her prosthetic legs and live her life? Why is that too much to ask? People, wake up, realize what's going on in this country. It's not good. You might not be affected today, but by tomorrow you could be. Either you or one of your loved ones. And you don't want to be standing beside your family's bed and your doctor look at you and say, my hands are tied. The government has tied my hands. Policies have tied my hands. I cannot prescribe. I cannot relieve your family's suffering. How is it legal that people that do not have medical degrees can dictate pain care? How is it legal that people that are not medical personnel, that are politicians, that are activists, how can these people tell doctors what they can and cannot prescribe? How can they take away the doctor-patient relationship and dictate our care? How can they deny us pain care? How can they deny us the medical care that we need between us and our doctors? If I'm not abusing my medication, if I'm not selling my medication or doing anything like that illegal, then it should be nobody's business what's going on between me and my doctor. As far as my health care needs are supposed to be my personal needs. Thank you for listening. And to Dawn's family, I am so sorry for your loss. I know you lost a very wonderful, courageous, beautiful woman. And I am so sorry that you lost her. And I just thank you for letting me do this video.